Hi, I'm Caspar. I'm a developer and I I make things about ghosts. But I wear many hats. And because they're fun and they're an important part of my self-expression. But I also wear these kinds of hats, uh, and each one is also important for my self-expression. Having a broad toolbox has been really great for me creatively, and it's not really uncommon in our industry. But I've constantly struggled with having the confidence to wear all of these hats. Um, I kind of just feel like I'm fighting against multiple imposter syndromes at once. So I always kind of wanted to be multidisciplined. I grew up drawing and painting, and I was considering a career in animation. But in the end, I decided to forego all art qualifications so I could learn to make games instead. I ended up taking a games course that focused on code and technology, but while I was there, I dabbled in 3D modeling, rigging, pixel art, shaders, all on top of learning programming and on top of furthering my original drawing skills. And sometimes I was really worried that I was spreading myself too thin and neglecting my core studies. But in the end, it didn't really matter that much because I was comfortable wearing many hats and I was producing my best work this way. Um, but when I began working in the industry as a programmer, I really started to doubt myself. Instead of my skills complementing each other, it began to feel like they couldn't coexist. I started to get caught up with concerns about whether I was good enough and felt like I only had my other skills to blame. Had I wasted my time at university on things that had no relevance or value? Was I behind my peers because of this? I'd made the conscious choice to pass on art qualifications. Was I allowed to call myself a real artist? And then, like, offhand comments and attitudes from within the workplace even made me start believing that pursuing my art skills was preventing people from taking me seriously as a programmer. I started to worry that instead of being someone who confidently wore many hats, I was actually just a fraud with a mediocre grasp of random and unrelated skills. I felt discouraged from learning anything new because I didn't want to dilute myself any further, and I didn't want to try and claim a hat I didn't feel worthy of. I lost the confidence to call myself an artist or a programmer, despite having demonstrable skills and years of experience in both disciplines. This infighting really caused a lot of problems with me creatively. I started to feel like separate people drawing hard lines between my creative outlets. I became Caspar, who was an artist, and Caspar, who was a programmer, and neither of these people interacted with each other anymore. And so instead of focusing on what I wanted to make, I was more concerned with mastery and proving to other people that I wasn't a fraud. And as a result, I started neglecting the skills I'd internalized as less valuable. So this phrase started haunting me. Um, but I learned recently that this is only the first half, and the full phrase is actually jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than master of one. Imposter syndrome can get us so caught up in whether we're good enough that we forget that mastery isn't the point. When you learn a new creative skill, you learn how to express yourself a little bit more, and the options for what you want to create open up. It can give you more tools to use when problem solving, and it can teach you to better communicate and collaborate with other people. But imposter syndrome is persistent and it can be really hard to ignore. So here's a few things I keep in mind. Uh, Labels are really difficult. They can add pressure if you're already struggling with imposter syndrome. Try simplifying things. Like I tend to just use game developer because it encompasses most of my creative output. And if you have a demonstrable skill, find the confidence to use the label because people will see your work and they will agree with you. And don't use aspiring. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy and it will do more harm than good. There is no deadline on learning, practicing, or creating, but you have to accept the learning curve. It's always going to exist, so try not to let it discourage you. Everyone learns and improves at different speeds, so don't compare your progress to others, and remember that people you look up to had to start somewhere too. This is a mantra I like say to myself when I get stuck in my own head. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be mine. And it tells me to balance my perfectionism and self-criticism because it inevitably becomes unhelpful. So you have to learn when to stop listening to it. You have to make stuff for yourself and not just to prove yourself to other people. And more often than not, your peers will be more interested in what you're making rather than how good you are at making it because your creative identity is unique and nobody else can make what you want to make. There's a lot more I could say on this, but I hope this helps anyone who might be having similar internal conflicts. So my final piece of advice is make things that interest you, and have fun. Thank you.